Good evening and welcome to the Sullen Art podcast, brought to you by Frequency House from the Dylan Thomas Birthplace at 5 Cwmdonkin Drive, Swansea. I'm Iqbal Malik, and with me are my co-host Chris Horgan.
Hello.
Good evening. And Simon Jones.
Good evening, Iqbal.
Good evening, Simon. And with us this week is Richie Smith. Evening,
Hello.
Richie.
Hi.
AKA the Uptown Poetry Punk. Sorry, I got that wrong, didn't I?
Uptown Portrayer, punk poet.
Sorry about that. That was I was trying to practice that. I was getting all the words mixed up. Tell us a bit about the name then, as well, like, you know, so where that comes from.
Basically, I was going to start writing songs, but then decided to take up poetry instead. And I live just up from the city. So I thought, Uptown Portrayer, I'm, you know, portraying what I'm actually thinking, sort of thing. So it just felt right, you know, it just felt like a good name. So.
And the last bit of that, punk poet, what's the significance there?
Yeah, I think kind of punk is kind of close to my heart, sort of thing, you know, growing up with it when I was younger. So
as in music or
yeah, well, the whole attitude really, you know. And yeah, I think that's the way I could see my poetry going. So I thought, yeah, punk poet makes sense.
Yeah.
So
What was it about? Sorry, man. What was it about the punk scene that influenced your poetry, man?
yeah, it was just a total change from, you know, what was coming through musically in the 70s, and all of a sudden the Pistols came along and things like that, and it just turned things totally on its head. And I think people were just waiting for it, you know, just needed it really, you know. So you know, and it's still relevant today, isn't it?
Very much so.
You
Yeah.
know?
I mean, are you Swansea born and bred then?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So you were here for the whole punk revolution in Swansea?
Not all of. Well, the early bits of it. I was working in England. I went to college in Somerset for 7 years altogether. So I caught the beginning of it, but then you know, I took a lot of it up then when I was in Exeter and Bridgewater.
Because the Pistols played Swansea, didn't they? I think they played them more than once, if I remember.
Yeah, that's right, they did. Yeah, I think I'm actually a bit too young to kind of catch their first appearances, believe it or not. But yeah, I think they did play Swansea a couple of times.
So the punk's really an ethos which you apply to your poetry?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I think when I first started writing, there was a lot of things I got to kind of get off my chest, sort of thing, or things I want to say, and you know, the punk ethos kind of matched that quite well.
I mean, you've not been short of material then, I guess, without getting overly political within the first sort of 2 minutes of it. I'm sure you've had plenty of material in the past, 10 years or so, if not. Well, you've always got material, I take it. Do you take a political stance on it? Cause
yeah, it's a bit of everything really. I started off very political and you know, very angry sort of thing, and saying the things, as I say, which are on my mind, and but I kind of started bringing a bit of humour into it, and you know, and it's kind of quite a rounded thing that I do now, to my mind, you know. It kind of caters for everybody, you know. There's a lot of influences from my supporting live music as well, venues and bands, and I know obviously my kind of experiences of performing as well, so I bring all that into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a good crossover with the type of poetry you write, and I've obviously seen a lot of that. Weirdly, the first spoken word poetry night I did was with a guy who you might know, Mike Jenkins.
Yes.
Because you're published by Red Poets as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I think,
and he does that, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think I'm in this year's volume.
Yeah. But the first night I actually performed was it was a mix between like sort of punk music night, and a poetry evening that he'd put on, which was the Red Poets one up in Merthyr, in a sort of community hall. But I think there's like a rich vein of like that, you know, that sort of close collaboration between some of the more radical elements of the punk movement and poetry, isn't there?
Yeah, for definite. It's like, you know, when punk first came out, I think it was like people like John Cooper Clarke, they were touring with the Pretenders, you know, and so it's always been that element has been kind of part of the punk scene as well. You know, the poetry has always been part of the punk music scene as well.
So just to be quite specific then for other listeners who might not be that familiar with punk or the sort of poetry element. What does that sort of poetry that you write look like or sound like? I mean, if you were to sort of describe that to a lay person, how would you sort of sum that up?
It's very working class. It is. It's it relates to kind of people being downtrodden, and it's all about the person who just needs that kind of push to kind of make something of themselves through adversity, sort of thing. I know all the poems I've got, as much as there's it's like the first 5 verses or the first 7 verses could be putting the point across. The last verse is always a positive twist on that to say, look, there is a possibility of changing all this round. This is this is what I suggest you could do, sort of thing. So
what was it with punk then that attracted you first?
Well, basically, as I said just now, it was the working class man, and also the music thing as well. As I said, it was like we had all this stuff from the 70s, and it was going. Well, it's not my sort of music, the Brotherhood of Man and all that sort of thing. And all of a sudden, then we had the Sex Pistols and the Damned. They were all coming through, and it just, I think a lot of people were waiting for it. Really.
Because the 70s was sort of the period of the rock dinosaurs and the mammoths, really. I mean, Zeppelin, yes, and it became quite self-indulgent.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of kind of big stadium gigs, isn't it? And and things like that. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because you would have seen a lot of changes through Swansea's music scene. Was there do you know roughly sort of date-wise when you started putting on gigs? Because we were talking earlier before we came on air that you were doing a number of gigs through the garage. I mean, how long ago was that?
I was doing gigs in the garage about 3-4 years ago. Yeah, but I started about. I think it was 2000 I started putting on gigs.
So you're looking at almost 20 years worth of...
Yeah, altogether, yeah. I did about 12 years. I had a couple of years break, and then I started doing other gigs in the garage. But to be honest with you, as I was saying earlier, I used to go to gigs in Newport or Cardiff, and, being 18 and 19, you had £5 left in your pocket, and... it goes towards the bar, the fiver. It doesn't matter whether you're train fare home, and at the end of the day, you get on the train on the way home. It was time when we used to have like mail trains, and you just ask the guard, or can we just jump on, and you just to sleep on the floor. Really? To get back from Swansea, from TJ's in Newport or something like that, because you just wanted to see the band and you just wanted another beer.
So, as I said at the beginning of that question, you must have seen quite a few changes in 20 years in terms of the scene. Has it gotten better, worse, or, I mean, what have you noticed?
I don't know. You can't say it's got worse, or you can't say it got better, because it's, a thing is constantly evolving, and we've got, there's a good few. I suppose at the moment there's an awful lot of good young bands that have come through. It's like you go to a venue like the Bunkhouse or something like that, and you see their gig listings. And it's all young and up and coming, most of it's up and coming bands, sort of thing. They've got the old bands from the 70s and 80s still there, but a lot of it is new, good Swansea bands.
Which is a good thing because, obviously with my involvement in the music scene, I do sort of see bands as well. They're coming in and they're always forming. I mean, like one of the bands we always mention on here is Bandicoot, who we will get in at some point to sort of talk about. I mean, it's the 20 years being involved in it. We also discussed about how you really quite, graciously is the wrong word, but in a really nice way were getting some quite major artists who had been on Radio 2, people like Martin Simpson, folk artists that not everybody who listens to the podcast might be aware of, but should be, because Martin Simpson's fantastic. Yeah. And you were getting not large support acts, you were getting local lads and lasses to
give them a chance to play.
And having a great gig with their CV. I mean, that must have been so rewarding to see, people locally that you knew. Well, for example, the Martin Simpson gig as well.
Yeah, it was. So the Martin Simpson gig was fabulous, and we had Andy Tamlin supporting, and Andy, he was the first person I actually thought of as a supporter. And but as we all know, there's so many good local artists, local musicians out there. But with Andy Tamlin, he was the first person I thought to support Martin Simpson. And it was lovely because we must have had about 100 in for the gig. And because he's a local musician, everybody was singing his songs as well as Martin Simpson's songs the night.
This is quite a wholesome, sort of really nice evening altogether. I mean,
it was wonderful. Yeah,
well, because our mutual friend Chris Capel, who again is somebody else we will have on the podcast, was saying, I'm just not reiterating what he said, but I agree with him. I mean, it sounds like there were some really special nights, especially 100 people in the garage. You can't move with 100 people in the garage.
No, it was just lovely. It was just a nice size venue. And it was a nice, cosy atmosphere, sort of thing, And we could hear a pin drop for all the musicians. Really, it was lovely.
Do you think you'll ever bring anything like that back in again?
I don't think I'll promote again.
No.
I've done. It's kind of an itch just been scratched for me now. Really, as I say, I did 12 years of ska and punk, and then I did 2 or 3 years for doing blues and folk. So I think that side of me is done now, and I think I want to concentrate on developing my kind of performing as opposed to promoting them.
Yeah, I mean, about the performance side of stuff and the sort of gigs you put on, Richie. Did you combine that with poetry, or was that pretty much exclusively the sort of music side and kind of getting bands?
No, it was, as I say, I was getting the train home from Newport, and I was going to all these gigs out of Swansea, and I was seeing all these great bands. And I was just thinking to myself, I'd like people to actually see these in Swansea, where I live. And that's what got me started, really.
So you were bringing the bands in from outside then?
Yeah, exactly. And again, when I first started, it's always been the ethos, which I've always done. And that's basically have a main band in and then bring in, as it was with the folk nights, we'd have, a single kind of a solo artist supporting, or 2 or 3 local punk or ska bands, as a support act for the headliners.
And obviously, Simon's asking whether you've seen major changes in the Swansea scene. I mean, I think things ebb and flow, don't they, with music? There's always kind of a groundswell of a lot of bands and a lot of musicians in sort of cities, aren't there? But I think the poetry scene's changed quite a lot. I mean, even over the last sort of 10, 15 years. I mean, what's your feeling about that? Because my kind of instinct is that there are more poets in Swansea. There's more kind of stuff going on, really.
It does feel that way. To be honest, I've only been on the poetry scene for just over 2 years now. But it just in those 2 years, all of a sudden, we seem to have more nights starting. I know you do your whole night, and there's the Talisman, and then there's what's the one in Cinema and Co.
That's Live Poets now.
That's Live Poets,
with
that's
Jim
right.
Evans, yeah.
But there seems to be a really good selection of places to go and perform, and there seems to be an endless line of poets lining up to get up to the mic, sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's a healthy thing, isn't it, when it comes to art in a city. We've talked a little bit before about the Swansea's bid for capital of culture. I think it was maybe a little bit too early. I think, I think things are still growing, things are still maturing here.
I think with Swansea now, we seem to have got more venues than ever, than we have for a long time. I know we did when I first started promoting, proper venues. We didn't have a tremendous amount. But now, they seem to be, as, we'll say the Bunkhouse is doing okay, and Hang at 18, and the Garage, and High Street has taken off as 2 or 3 venues in High Street. So it's kind of, the venues are there for people now, I think, more.
It's just keeping them running, because there's Heist is still going on High Street, and then you've got the Elysium Bar, which is the most recent edition.
Yeah, that seems to be doing okay as well.
Yeah. Well, it's a clever idea. It's a really good idea to have it. It's pretty much directly opposite, isn't it? From Elysium, was it opposite diagonal? Diagonal opposite.
Yeah.
Not Cinema & Co. The Elysium Bar.
The Elysium,
yeah. But Cinema & Co is a really nice venue, because it was we both went to a mutual friends of ours' birthday there.
I played there in October as well. And I really enjoyed it. There was no stage on the floor in your face.
That's a good thing.
That's what, I mean, I played on stages, which are great, but that, I'm floor level, I'm eye to eye with you, and we're going to go for it. I mean, it's... I loved the venue, and the sound was great in there. So I can't.
Well, I've got to be honest. That's why I chose to initially put the Swansea Poetry Slam there, because like Anna is great. You know, she's like super supportive, and it's always the right atmosphere. You know, it's the right kind of vibe to it, isn't it? So, I mean, what's your favourite venue in Swansea then, Richie, in terms of either performance or gigs you've put on?
Yeah, I think Elysium, as it stands at the moment, I think that's a good venue. I think it's kind of...
I haven't been in there.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah.
It's kind of split into two, really. It's the front area seems to be for bands, and then there seems to be like a meeting area at the back, and they obviously got a big garden. But it's a nice venue.
I'll have to check that out.
I feel like I might have been in there once for like late night drinking. I can't picture it like the majority of it. You've spoken about it before, haven't you? I think you.
No, we spoke about it with Alfie because
that's right.
When Alfie was on podcast, I want to say 10. Because we're on number 14 now. Starting to lose track and I have to go back. Alfie was talking about how they developed it, and they were going to be doing a podcast from there, I think, as well.
He's got some plans for a different kind of podcast in it.
Yeah, a bit more David Lynch sort of inspired. Sort of.
Sounds quite good though.
I'm hoping it's coming. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for the updates every day. But it'll be interesting to see that. I mean, by my own admission, I need to go out more to these venues and support them, because that's the only way that they germinate and grow. And Cinema & Co., when Chris and I went to our friend Boss's 40th there, I was really surprised at how nice it was and really cosy it was. Also, that no one had the idea before to put like a really small independent cinema in Swansea before that. Which I thought was a really, really, really good idea, because they've had one in Bristol for donkey's years, the Cube Cinema.
I've had one in Astro Gunlights for years.
Are you kidding? There's one in Astro Gunlights? No, go on.
Yeah, there's one. I can't remember, the community hall up there does it. When I used to work up there a few years ago, they did. I'm assuming they still do it, but it was in a community hall, but it was run as a cinema. So there are people up there doing it, but that kind of speaks volumes, you know. Swansea's a big city, and Astro Gunlights is not. And someone chose to put it up there.
Yeah, but that's the other thing as well. I've remarked this to a friend of mine, Ed Purcell, because he lives up in Pontardawe. Pontardawe Arts Centre seems to get loads of really, really good comedians, bands. I think Public Service Broadcast played up there, if I remember rightly, and they're great. They seem, and then there's the Pontardawe Arts Festival in itself, which if anyone present, or
that's quite folky, isn't it?
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not. It's really, really, really diverse, and it's. I think it's over 2 days, and it is just fantastic. They have a hog roast at the Gwach. I'm sure it's at the Gwach, and you have loads of people turning up, and it's just a really, really good community feel. And when I was there 2 years ago with Ed, I kept saying to him, why doesn't Swansea do something similar to this? Now, that's not to cast a shadow on the Fringe at all, but Pontardawe Arts Festival is completely different to my mind than the Fringe. Like, it's almost the entirety of Pontardawe comes to a complete standstill for the music and the venues, whereas Swansea, even though there's so much going on, the Fringe has developed and it is doing a good job, it doesn't feel like it's quite just not shutting down is the wrong word, but, you know, it doesn't feel like everybody's
Well, I was going to say,
getting involved.
It sounds like the Pontardawe stuff is more kind of like it sort of pulls in some sort of gravity for the whole town, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, that's all around it. But here, I suppose if you have a festival on it, it's sort of part of the city somewhere, and people can find it if they want to. But I suppose in Pontardawe you can't miss it.
No,
I think with the Pontardawe Folk Festival, you know, from years ago as well, that seems to have got like I don't know, people still talk to me about it, sort of thing. It was. I think they still got that kind of feel about it, Pontardawe, and people just want to gravitate there. I think because it's, as you say, a lot of people. You know, there's a lot of really good art. You know, comedians and bands go there. I think I saw Squeeze up there a couple of years ago. You know, they were doing a warm up gig for one of their tours. But I think with Pontardawe, people generally don't go up there as often as they could do, because it's difficult to get back from if you're not driving and anything like that. But I think when there is something on there, then they actually make the effort to cover it.
Once you're there. You're locked in, boy. You've got to sit there.
Pretty much, yeah.
But there's something really nice about the whole area of Pontardawe.
It's lovely. It's lovely.
Without being overly romantic about it, I mean, there's the River Towie runs up it, and you've got kingfishers on one side and herons on the other, and this is just, it's the River Towie. But yeah, it's a really, really nice little festival. When I went up there, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And as I said, the art centre's fantastic. They always seem to have something quite good on. But then speaking about small sort of venues putting on, or small townships or areas putting great great shows on. Didn't Jeff put something up today? Stuart Lee's playing in Larne. And Mark Thomas
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
The comedian Stuart Lee is playing in Larne. Mark Thomas is playing in Larne as well. It's on that festival thing.
Right, so I've missed that.
Yeah.
I've missed that on social media. See, Chris, it does have its upsides, doesn't it? But social media. Chris is sort of notorious for not wanting to engage in social media at all. Yeah, okay, so we need to go and have a little look at that. Because
you should be doing one from here, because it's as we discussed in the car, was it 75 or 85% of his
that's true.
His work was written in this
Dylan
house?
Thomas's work, yeah.
So why doesn't Uplands close up? There's plenty of venues to do something similar.
In fairness, I think we have mentioned it before, but Pierre Donahue did have the Donocca Gentle Festival in the Uplands. It was primarily in the Uplands, wasn't it?
Yeah, okay, I stand corrected.
And he did that for 6 years, I think it was. And then you sort of move on and do other stuff, don't you? And then the Fringe took off. But no, you're right. I mean, the Uplands is that kind of entity where you've got enough young people, enough students, enough general stuff happening here, and good venues to bring something a little bit more tangible here a bit more frequently. No, I don't know. I think it'd be nice to get out and take the podcast out a little bit, just to go off on a minor tangent. But there's one festival I was asked to go and do some stuff with. I'm gonna have a chat this week. The Llanstefan Writing Festival.
Where's Llanstefan?
Just 7 miles past. I think 7 miles past Cwmdonkin.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's the other side of the street.
Why were you sweating then?
Yeah, it's just trying to dig it out of my brain.
My birthday. There's a lovely little restaurant bar kind of thing there called In the Sticks.
Right, okay.
So if we're going to go up there,
well,
we need to
we're all on board.
we should do that. The person I think runs it, Lucy Parkin, I'm going to have a chat with her tomorrow about it. I mean, actually, it might be good to get her on as well, just to kind of see what's going on elsewhere.
Worst football pitch I've ever seen in Llanstefan.
The worst one.
Marsh grass in the middle of the pitch.
Right.
That's all I'll say. God almighty.
But I mean, Richie, you're quite busy at the moment, because Iqbal sent through like a little itinerary of all the dates you're doing this year. It's like you're doing a lot.
Yeah, I just love getting out there, just performing to new faces, new people all the time,
Well, I mean, so without looking at my phone because it'll interfere with the recording equipment, what are you doing at the moment? You give like half the year what you're up for? Because I remember it was like 15 or 16 dates Iqbal sent over, or am I exaggerating?
No, it's 11 at the moment.
11, okay.
Yeah, I'd one confirmed.
Unconfirmed, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's one confirmed today as well, so it takes it up to 11. But I don't do nothing now until April, and then I've got my first release coming out.
Okay.
On the 17th, we got a Cardigan. Last year I did a festival, and there's 2 poets coming down from Manchester, and there's another one from Derby. Patrick Davis is brilliant, who's from Manchester, and then Sophie Sparham from Derby. We're doing Cardigan and Swansea on the 17th and 18th of April.
Well, tell us a bit about this release then. Are we talking about single, music, poetry? I mean, what are we looking at there?
Right, it's going to be self-publication, basically.
Right.
It's got about 20 poems I'm putting together. They're all going to be double-sided A6 hand flyer size. And there's going to be a 20. I'm going to make a box for myself. And I got a logo for what I do. That's going to be a placemat, which is going to be also in with the box.
Right. Okay. Let me just get this right, because I don't know if I either switched off or I kind of got the wrong end of the thread here. So we're talking in terms of the publication, right?
Yeah.
We're looking at a box.
Going to be a box set of 20 poems.
Right. So would they be on cards, or would they? Is it that we're talking like
on cards? Yeah, on an A6 hand flyer.
I've seen stuff like that before, and I think it's really clever. I really like that. It's completely different.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I think there's awful lot of poets which actually release books and things like that. And I just wanted to have something a bit different, sort of thing.
It's like the EP of a poet, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's I got 3 local artists involved. They're doing illustrations for me, and as I say, I got a logo which is going to be a placemat. So basically, you open up the box, you make yourself a cup of tea, pour yourself a glass of wine or a beer.
Yeah.
You put that on the placemat, and you just read through 20 poems.
Well, who's doing the artwork for you, man?
Well, actually, it's my nephew. Artist's name is Ben Glutch. The Swansea Comics Collective, and Gemma, can't remember her surname, Gemma Collins.
Poet.
Yes.
As well as artist.
That's the one, yeah.
no,
So those 3 are involved as well. And as I say, I'm doing all my own.
What's the theme of it? Is the art tying in with the poetry, or is it just separate art?
Yeah, basically. There's I've basically said to each of the artists, I just said, look, this is the theme. I just want you to come up with what you envisage it to be. So I got a poem called Fire in My Belly. So it's basically illustration of a torso, and then it's got all different words coming out.
So it's like their interpretation of your words.
Yeah, I've just left it entirely up to them, sort of thing. You know,
Cool.
I've just said, look, this is what type of thing I'd like, but I want you to kind of express yourself. So
Yeah, and that's cool, man. Art ties in with each other, you know.
yeah,
And that's what I find wonderful. Like we're lucky in the band that our synth player does all the art,
right.
but he'll do something and you won't expect it. His interpretation of our sound or lyrics, and it's not what I did. And
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it all.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I also got one as well, which I'm self-confessed crap photographer, so I've got a couple of blurry photos to go in on my
Some of those make the best. Some of those photos make the best.
I know. Well, I say I got a poem called Shit Photographer, so I thought I can't have a good
At
photograph
least
for
it's
that.
self-effacing.
That that certainly sounds like an old punk song title. Shit photographer.
Is there going to be a limited run of these? I mean, are you doing like 50, 100, or?
Yeah, I think I'll initially do 50, and then I'll just be taking them with me all over the country then, and selling them.
So this is the real DIY ethic.
Absolutely.
Right the way through
All
here.
the way through.
This is your tour merch, then, is it?
Yeah, it is basically. I know it pays for the National Express coaches.
And you're going to be, are you going to be doing like a minor threat thing where you're like literally putting them together, numbering them by hand, all 50, or?
Yeah. I think it'll pretty much sort it all out, and they will be numbered as well. Yeah, So.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's nice, and this is no disrespect to anybody else, poet-wise, who will be putting a collected work or an anthology together, but it's really quite, because Iqbal had to stop and think, right, so you're putting a box together, and it's really cool. And I like the whole pamphlet thing as well. It's kind of a bit more, what's it, earthy.
It gives it a new life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of a stuffy old book.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
nothing wrong with books, but
how many books do you read? And I know, I think this would probably...
It's a conversation starter as well. It's like, what's that?
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
the
I think that sort of stuff forces the person that has bought it, i.e. the reader. Sorry, the reader. The reader.
What was his name?
So I don't know his name. But it forces them to actually interact somehow with that art, doesn't it? Interact with it, sort of, experience it, pick it up, whatever. But this is a child in me, really. But I mean, what else is in the box then? I mean, have you got like badges and sort of stickers or anything like that? Or is it?
I haven't got as far as badges or stickers yet, to be honest. Quite right. But no, it's just the placemat at the moment. I think probably I'm just going to hold a couple of things back. If I ever do another release, well, I don't want to run out of ideas too soon, sort of thing. Everything,
And what's the title of this forthcoming collection?
It's going to call 2020 Vision.
Right. Okay.
It's my idea of what's happening at the present time.
Right. So we'll kind of look at the social side of stuff, the world generally, from that sort of semi-political perspective.
That's it. Yeah. That's cool. As I say, my musical influences as well. About music venues and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Well, that sounds cool, man.
Would you be prepared later, perhaps, to give us and the audience a small sample of one of your poems?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly
You're thinking the same thing, because it would be really disingenuous of us not to, because so far every poet we've had on has read a little little piece.
Yeah.
Because we had 2 last week, like 2 weeks
Rosie,
ago, from
wasn't it?
Rosie Bufton. So.
What's your writing process, man? Do you just collect lines as you go, or do you nail a poem there and there? How do you go about it?
Basically, just come up with an idea.
Okay.
And then it takes me best part of about 2 or 3 months to kind of come up with ideas of how to express off that idea sort of thing. So, which then it means if I've got like 6 themes to go based on that, the main theme of the poem, well, those are then the verses sort of thing. And I got to put those in order then, as if it's kind of a storytelling sort of a thing. So you start off with the initial theme of the poem, and then you develop it and you tell people what you think, and then as
Do
I
you start with
say,
the title then?
no, the title actually kind of. Yeah, I suppose the title sometimes comes initially, but otherwise you're just thinking, this after you finish the poem, you're thinking, that fits it now, sort of thing, and then you come up with something then.
Do you find that music influences what you write and sort of how you write as well then, Richie? Yeah,
I think an awful lot is based on my musical experiences, because, I've been going to gigs since I was about, I don't know, I saw Madness in the Avon Lido when I was about 15. And since then, music's always been in my life, sort of thing, as one part or another,
Because I do find that listening to music does trigger stuff, whether it's lyrics or just that feeling, particularly sort of sort of high energy sort of. When I say high energy, I don't know how to explain that now, but like,
You sound like Charlie Sheen.
Yeah,
Tiger Blood,
it is.
high energy.
Yeah.
He's not winning now.
Yeah, I'm not winning, not at all. No, just like off a slight aside then, right? Today, walking the dog, right? I was listening to An American Prayer by Jim Morrison.
Yeah, we mentioned that before.
And it is just superb, honestly. It's just essentially a spoken word piece, Doors, but obviously Jim Morrison just reciting these lines. And some of them are just mind-blowingly brilliant. I think a lot of sort of current poets perhaps overlook some of the musical greats who've come up with just simply breathtaking poetry. Quite remarkable.
So you put Left Field to one side then since the last podcast?
Well remembered.
No, well, I mean, I do edit it, so I do get to hear you say it about 20 times.
Again,
I listen to Left Field.
But like I said, okay, so just to go slightly deeper on that one. So Left Field, I think the point I was making is that the kind of music that and sort of feeling from that, right, is more, it kind of gets me into that more shamanistic sort of mindset. But so you kind of drive something deeper.
Ploughing that furrow of music influencing the way you write poetry, and saying that some younger poets or contemporary poets don't seem to pay credence to
very good.
thank you nice segue there, to some of the great lyricists that have come before. Who would you put in that category alongside
Jim Morrison? Right, okay.
Not trying to
no, I think that's a really good question. I mean, I think, I've got to be honest, I think Bob Dylan is,
well, that goes with,
I know, but
I
don't know, does it?
Oh, absolutely.
It does.
You think? Yeah.
No, I don't see anything special in it.
No.
Not for me, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think some of his lines are just beautiful. I think but
he's more sort of stream of consciousness.
Yeah,
I'm with you on the Dylan thing. I agree with you on the Dylan thing. I mean, Neil Young is another one that I'd probably put in that category as well. Yeah. Definitely Neil Young.
I suppose you could say Leonard Cohen.
Yes.
You could even say Johnny Cash, I suppose, to some degree.
Jeff Buckley.
Yeah.
Frank Williams.
Yeah.
One of the best lyricists ever. But
James Taylor.
To you, though, that same question to you, man. What is there any kind of like punk lyricists that influence you? Or maybe not so much. Well, in any way, really, the construction of the written line or anything.
Yeah, I suppose with, I think Jerry Dahmer's would be for me.
Yeah.
As far as, writing. And also, I take a lot from the Specials, because a lot of their songs, like, I don't know if you hear, like Nightclub and things like that, it's very edgy sort of thing, and that would kind of, that's the feel I like to try to drive me on with things.
Yeah. So I'm just smiling there, Richie, because I did mention the Specials Encore,
Right.
their new album last on the New
Year
Year special. And it probably wouldn't. It probably didn't go down as well as I'd hoped. But no, I obviously jest. But I thought their new album, Encore, it brought a lot of stuff up to date for me.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of their stuff travelled that well down over the years. It starts to sound a bit dated, doesn't it, after a period of time. But stuff like BLM, Black Lives Matter, and the driving, and the interesting thing about that particular single is essentially it's another spoken word piece.
Yeah. Well, they got that girl who was involved who kind of stood up to a fascist, isn't it? And I think they brought her on stage with them for a tour.
Okay.
And I think that was all.
I didn't know
that. You missed it.
I can't remember her name now, but I think she's.
Well, there was something in the media, wasn't it? There was this picture of an Asian, quite a young, sort of, 20-odd-year-old girl who was standing face to face with a Nazi, and
with a Nazi.
Yeah, just sort of
a white supremacist.
You know what? I can't remember exactly. I mean, it's fair enough, but no. So she was brought onto stage then as well. Is it?
Yeah, I think they kind of saw what she had done, sort of thing, and they kind of just brought it up because I think it was obviously a good thing to do as well, just to say, well, look, we were all even on this planet, really.
She's not on the record though. Did she record something?
I'm not sure, to be honest. So I haven't got the new record, to be honest with you.
No, right. I just don't know the story.
No, it sounds from what Richie's saying that they just had her on stage to perform some stuff with her.
Exactly, yeah.
But so, have you got anything else then in terms of like influences in that sense that kind of transcend the punk to the poetry?
Well, as we were talking about earlier about music venues, and music venues are very, very close to my heart, sort of thing, and also people who, I suppose don't like the mainstream music, kind of support the smaller bands, support the smaller venues, and will actually go out and do and get off their asses on a Saturday night and do something.
As I like to call them.
Yeah. We should also mention about the crossover with lyricists. We should pay service to, we discussed before, KRS-One, Wu-Tang Clan before that as well. Yeah. Because, I mean, lyricism aside, well, not aside, but, the hip-hop movement of the... Well, yeah. It is...
Yeah, I mean, I think the hip-hop side of stuff is hugely influential. And, I think I think I was talking to you off air at some point about the Don't Flop YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
Which is just basically rap battles, quite personalised stuff. So people get told, whoever's competing in it and recording online, they get told a couple of months in advance who their opponent's going to be, and they're just ripping it against each other, aren't they? But they are obviously musicians. They are rappers who just come to do that.
I mean, not trying to sort of go around that, but I'm going to go around that. I think that I wasn't really referring to the sort of dissing rap battle contest. It was more sort of we spoke about it when we went for a little meeting last week, and Chris brought up Liquid Swords. If you ever if you listen to that, that's some of the lyricism on that is absolutely mind blowing. It really, really is. And you can even say that Tupac as well is often quite sort of cited. It doesn't do it much. But
there's loads of lyricists within the underground which never get a mention, like Dax Riggs, the stuff he wrote with Acid Bath and stuff. Forget the music for a minute and read the lyrics. It's great, and there's so many underground lyricists that maybe the lyrics get not as much focus as a poet would, because a poet is just a spoken word.
Well, that's why I dropped the music, to be honest with you, because I was...
Because you got a good riff behind you taking it.
I was thinking to myself, well, I feel as if I'm writing good lyrics here, and some musicians I talk to, I say, we do lose lyrics with music, and especially through punk sort of thing. You don't, unless you actually get to read all the sleeve notes and pick up on the lyrics. But so I thought, some of these lyrics kind of, to my mind, too good to kind of lose.
Yeah,
So.
So you mentioned the Damned. Are you still a big Damned fan at all? Or?
Well, no, I think. I kind of like to follow kind of new bands coming through all the time. I think I appreciate what you know, I like an awful lot of music, but it's like with punk, you know, it's what happened in the 70s, you know, can never be forgotten. And, you know, and it's like, I think, you know, there's obviously bands who are around today. I saw a band from Rochdale, I think it was in Cardiff last week, called Aerial Salad, and they're fantastic, really, really good. And they've got that kind of, you know, undertones look about them, and they kind of, that kind of, you know, angst against the world sort of mentality, really, which is, you know, it was just great. It's just great.
Is there anyone locally in Swansea at the moment that you're really sort of excited by?
Oh, as I say, Bandicoot with Tom Emlyn. You know, I think what Tom's doing is great. You know, he's a really talented guy. You know, and it's nice to see that band getting out to Swansea, and and kind of go. I think they got a couple of gigs in Cardiff lately as well. You know, so it's nice to see them doing well for themselves.
I concur with that, because they're a nice bunch of lads. Full stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, really nice. Yeah. You know, they're willing to talk to you. And Tom is as you said, he's a very talented and a very nice bloke to deal with as well.
Top.
We got to get him on though.
Yeah, we are.
We always talk about them.
Yeah, we will. With Kieran and Tom, more than happy to come on. I mean, you've met Kieran in the shop.
Kieran's a sound bloke, actually.
Those for those who don't know, the bass player, and well, I suppose Tom is also singer and songwriter for Bandicoot, and he stands on his own 2 legs on his own as well. He's done a lot of solo stuff. But
Kieran's very funny, by the way.
Kieran's
very dry.
Kieran's incredibly dry sense of humour. Yeah, we might have to do a lot of editing on that one. There'll be lots of things that we'll have to probably take out. Yes, no, maybe. Who knows?
Just let it run.
Yeah, let it run. But what are you on tonight, Iqbal? Just to sort of take it off on a tangent.
On the drink.
You're on the drink.
So I feel like at some point I need to say I'm just having a cup of tea, because it doesn't sound great, does it? I'm having a beer every time I come up.
Yeah, but it's not like you're having like 26, is it?
No, I usually stick to the one. I will just have that one. But tonight it's another Thomas Watkin. It's Magic Lager with a Y. So that's what I'm having.
Chris, you've gone really different tonight.
Yeah, I've gone for Camden Hells Lager. I was in the mood for an IPA, and then I thought I'm going to buy lager for some reason. And I had it many weeks ago. I thought I'll try it again, and it's all right.
Palatable.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Richie, you've got full Swansea
Jack.
in here. Yeah.
Swansea Jack. I'm a real ale man. See? I like a real ale. So yeah, I thought any pale ale or something like that would be lovely.
I'm on tea. But no, I'll have something later.
You're on a vegan tea, mate.
Vegan tea.
What?
Yeah, he's on almond. Is it almond milk?
I bought almond milk.
Oh, yeah.
You said to me when we were in Sainsbury's, better get some vegan milk, and I said, all right then, because I did, and got the almond milk, and it's fine. You know, it's all right. Not as
Well,
nice
in fact,
as
I think the exact conversation was which milk shall I pick?
No. You said
I said
you
soy,
said
and you
no.
said no. I'll get the.
Hang on. You're doing this again. You're leading everyone down the garden path.
Yeah,
I said to you, let's get milk, and you went, yeah, get some vegan. Okay, then I guess we're getting vegan milk.
Well, it just means I can have a cup of tea later as well. Yeah, maybe.
Bully.
Get cow's milk.
No.
Got Yorkshire tea bags though.
Nice. I do like a nice Yorkshire.
It's
tea
good.
bag. Yeah, very
Really
nice.
strong.
Very good choice there, mate.
Thank you very much. But so, Richie, you got a full calendar coming up. It sounds like you're doing a really expansive, I want to say box set, but I don't really think that's the right way to describe it. Sort of first release. Did you mention earlier did you ever try out to be a musician at all? I mean, do you play in any shape, form, or way? Or?
Yeah, I kind of I do play. I use a ukulele, harmonica, and acoustic guitar as well. So I think, but it's in my bedroom at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoy playing sort of thing, you know, and considering turning my poems into songs. So
Do you hear music when you write your poems? Say like you write one of your poems.
Yeah. Sometimes it comes straight away, sort of thing. But and sometimes I'll just deliver a poem as if I was, you know, singing a song almost, like, you know, but I'd pace it as if it was a poem as opposed to a song, but just without the music, really.
So you write to a bar then, do you?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it just, you know, just bring the tempo up and, you know, slow it down and or whatever sort of thing, you know. And
do you find that influences you when you deliver it live? If you're going to deliver the poem and you've written it with a, say, like, say like an imaginary riff or something in your head,
Yeah.
will you deliver it at that pace? Or
Yes, yeah, you will, yeah. But then you kind of pause on certain words and things like that, just to, make sure people, get to hear those ones which kind of can swing the kind of the theme of the poem, really,
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's good. I love it, to be honest. It's great. It's really good, and it's it's every crowd is different. That's the thing, and you can kind of almost like sense it as soon as you kind of almost like walk in the room, or you get chatting to a couple of people, and then you kind of
find in different towns react. You get like a better pull, like in town A as opposed to town B, or
I was in Sheffield in December, and that was great. They were just I think the people who are kind of Northern England are very much like the Welsh sort of thing, very warm sort of thing, and it kind of I was just being my kind of natural best sort of thing.
I've said
my natural self sort of thing.
I've said that before. I think there is a correlation where there has been heavy industry in an area. I think there's a different sort of take on things, and as you said, I found that when I've been in Yorkshire. My dad was from Lincolnshire, which is next county over, so Yorkshire, Lancashire, Lincolnshire. There is more of a kinship with the sort of Welsh.
There is that working class thing again.
So, Richie, when is one of your poems done? When do you know you've finished a poem?
It's difficult to say, really. I can probably... Sometimes you could write it in 2 days, but then you've got to... Almost like feels you've got to perform it to make sure you're not adding too many words, or you need to just take one word away, and I think that does finish it. And other times you can just sit on it for 6 months, and you think there was one poem where I was never happy with the last verse, and I just trying to work out what did sound right, and the way I wanted it to kind of feel, and it just came to me then, after kind of just letting it kind of slip from my mind for a while, sort of thing, and then it kind of that's the...
Do you do that though? You write something and then chuck it aside for X amount of weeks or months, and then come back to it, and then...
if you're not happy with it, it's probably the same with you with writing songs, sort of thing. If you're not happy with a verse or something like that, or as you say, maybe just a couple of words, you'll just say, let's just switch off from it for a bit, and then come back to it, or it'll just come back to you, and then and that verse will fit, sort of thing.
Have you ever gone back to one and just totally binned it?
Yeah.
I've done that with 10-minute songs.
It's difficult, that sort of writing process, I find. I mean, I've got to the point where I put stuff to one side for months and months and months, and it's kind of painful going back at on occasions, isn't it? Because it's like you've got to still do some work on it.
But
and you're a bit fearful as to whether you can get it done or not.
But to me, there's no rush to complete anything.
No, that's true, yeah.
And I just feel, just let it take its course, really, and it'll come to you sometimes, as you say, rather than you trying to fight to kind of force the finish, which then you'll people will can see it's been forced then,
So you found that Sheffield, that people were quite receptive to the sort of poetry. Was there anywhere else in the UK at all that you found people have been really welcoming with these sorts of nights? And
I did an All Stock last year, which is brilliant. Just to be asked to do an All Stock was fantastic.
For those who don't know where Noelstock is,
it's in Hereford, Herefordshire, and I think it was Sleaford Mods were there, and people like that sort of thing. Soul to Soul were there. So just to be part of just to see my name in the programme notes was just fantastic, sort of thing.
I mean, do they have a dedicated sort of poet stage or tent or something along those lines?
Yeah, we had the Saturday, we had like a matinee kind of or an afternoon, go an hour, 20 minutes to do, and then we could just let it all go then in the evening. No children around.
How did it go?
No family crowd.
How did they take to the poetry in like a festival like that? How did it go down?
During the day?
Yeah.
It's as I say, with my set, I've got quite a diverse set sort of thing, so I can kind of, calm it down, and then, I can kind of crank it all up again then for the evening sort of thing, So it's no, it was fine. It was great, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. To be honest with you, kind of hopefully get some more festivals.
I mean, I've not performed at a festival like that, but I'd imagine it's got to be a little bit intimidating, isn't it? Because you're not performing to poets. So the poets are you. You're essentially performing mostly to.
Well, you might be.
Yeah.
You might be.
Yeah. But I would have imagined. I would have imagined the majority would be the opposite, wouldn't they? Or have I got that?
Well, I
wrong?
think
Slightly wrong.
All right, fair enough.
I think with the Nostock gig, it was kind of it was 6 of us all together, but then they obviously bring all their friends, sort of thing, and there's other people involved as well. So, but I think the friends of the poets, sort of thing, are obviously poets themselves, I would imagine. So it's like it's, but these that again these days I don't seem to get worried about it at all. I just got I just do it to enjoy myself.
I think, but I've noticed that about you. You do like performing, don't you? You do feel very comfortable in front of the mic. I'm out to entertain people. I want people to have a good time, and I want people to kind of, I like to see people's reactions. So that kind of inspires me to make sure I do a good job of what I can.
Has that ever informed a piece that you've done? So like sort of you've beta tested depending on where you're, on what side of the Atlantic, you've beta tested a poem and you've seen people's reactions. Have you then sort of changed and moved things when you've come back to, have you done like re-edits after? So like you've done a piece and some...
No, I think generally with the way I work is as long as I'm happy with it, that's good enough for me, sort of thing, and it's like if I upset people, well, I mean politically, well that's my job done. If I make people happy, that's my job done.
I mean it was sort of like more along the lines of like you say you delivered a line and like the reaction was like really positive, like aha, okay, so I know then when I come to perform that again that my emphasis should be, the build up should be on that bit there.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, and also I'll kind of I'll slow the poem down when I know I'm going to come up to a prominent point of it, sort of thing, and then I'll just deliver a single word, and I'll kind of pause on it as well, and then that'll kind of accentuate everything.
So didn't you say it was 2 years you've been doing the poetry for? Is that a little bit longer?
I think it's just been 2 years since Christmas, I think.
Was that performing or actually doing poetry?
No, I think I started performing year last July. So 18 months performing, but just writing 6 or 7 months before that. I think the first night was at a Howl Night.
Oh, was it?
Oh, yeah, that was the first time ever. That was knocked my knees out.
Yeah. Which one did you perform? Which is the one?
I did Nut Allergy and No Robot.
That Nut Allergy wasn't your first poem. It can't have been.
Yeah, I think it was. Actually,
it's the first poem you'd written.
I think it was. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's quite a humorous piece.
Yes.
But you do write with some humour, don't you? You don't like just do dry poetry. I mean, I can write. I don't particularly write funny poems. I mean, people might find them comedy poems, but I don't write with the intention of making them funny. Do you know what I mean? But whereas you do have a natural sense of humour with it.
I like to play with words, and I like to find, it's like the English language has got so many alternative meanings for the same word, and I like to kind of bring in, could be 2 different meanings, but bring them in so that everybody knows. It's like when Nut Allergy is talking about people who are fruitcakes to my mind, but it's like there's also, you go to the doctor and he'll prescribe you got nut allergy, because you don't like fruitcakes.
Yeah. No, but I think what I like about your poetry as well.
I want to hear that.
Can you do that one?
Yeah, we'll have to now. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Should we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Have you got it on you? Have you got it on you now? Or can you just do it?
Yeah.
So then, Richie, you're going to do Nut Allergy for us then?
I am, yeah.
Whenever you're ready, man.
Already? I know. Some people in society, they make me feel unease. Their way of thinking, I do not agree. They make me feel uncomfortable in the way they see. Why don't they realise I got a nut allergy? I went to the doctor for him to have a look. He wasn't sure, consulted a book. He said, you don't like bigots? No, the BMP. I can see the problem now. You've got a nut allergy. Some people come to see me, they want to be my friend. They think I think the same as them, they drive me round the bend. Why don't they realise they're not the same as me? I'd rather stay away from them. I've got a nut allergy. Dangerous people who want to throw bombs unnecessarily, brainwashed by the papers and TV, cultivating hatred for rational people to see. They're not that naive. They've got a nut allergy. Now, if you good people think the same as me, we should live in peace and harmony, respecting people's cultures without feeling aggrieved. You will then see you've got a nut allergy. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richie.
There we go.
We like that.
Yeah, we
that
do
a lot.
like that.
So you had your notebook out there to read that, and you didn't look at your notebook. So you've you've got it all
like a comfort blanket.
all upstairs. Yeah. No, I know exactly.
Would
what you
you
mean that.
perhaps be up for doing another one later? If there's another one that
sure,
'cause
yeah.
we could look at that was the first one that you performed, as Iqbal stated earlier.
Yeah, I think it's the first one I ever did. Yeah.
We could look at perhaps something that you've. Could we get a preview of what's coming in the box or something close to that?
Yeah, could do, yeah.
Okay, we'll leave it up to you, whatever you fancy doing.
So
Yeah,
hearing
cool.
you there, Rich, is the first time I've heard you, and it was definitely a rhythm to it.
Yeah.
Going back to our conversation earlier about like the music influence. There
Yeah,
was
as I say,
there's always like a gallop on certain lines.
Yeah. I go on about buses. I'm like a fetish for buses. I love buses.
A what?
I go like a
fetish for buses?
Yes, when I was like,
Right, let's get into this.
What is it about a bus? That you
No,
love?
it was like when I was like 5, my mum put like a double-decker bus in my hand, plastic double-decker bus, and that's it. Since then, I've been hooked on buses, sort of thing.
What is it about buses that you like?
I don't know. They just can't do any wrong in my eyes. You know, they can't turn up. I still love them.
So,
What's your favourite bus?
Oh, double-deckers.
The classic red
Just a
one.
stupid question.
A classic red one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not
do you use
not the bendy bus.
What's
then.
what's you taking the bendy bus?
No, this is double-decker wins all the time. It's just like, for me, so you go upstairs. When I was young, my granddad used to take me upstairs in a bus, left-hand side.
Top
and
left front.
Top left front, you know it. See,
Yeah. we've
ask me
been
all
there.
these questions and he knows knows the answers. And it's just like all the branches of the trees hitting the bus, like, you know, you just can't beat it. Like. Anyway, that's my psychological problem.
No. Do you use the bus services much in Swansea at all, or?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always.
Because I do as well at the moment. But
I got bus pass and all that business. So
there's did you ever? I think this was about 4 or 5 years ago. Somebody put up on YouTube. They were testing out the triggering system that they have on the buses with the lights, and it's I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a video from 1981, 1980, and it's just the bus going around. It's like 10 to 20 minute video of this information video for the bus service at the time, which might have been SWT, I don't know.
Right.
South Wales Transport. And I think that's what it stood for. And it's just this infomercial for drivers and how the bus works with this transmitter receiver between the traffic lights and the transmitter on the bus.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating, not just from the bus point of view, being on the bus, how the system works, but to then see how Swansea used to be.
Yeah,
because it looks beautiful. It's before pedestrianisation and all that sort of thing. It looks like a fantastic place.
Yeah.
But so a bus fetish. There aren't that many double-decker routes in Swansea. There's only the student village, isn't there? That's the... If I remember right.
I think it's pretty much the one at the moment, isn't it?
Do you ever go on that? For a laugh?
Yeah.
Today I'm spoiling myself for going on to the student village and
my
back
day
on the
off.
bus. Yeah.
So,
I know what you mean. It is quite therapeutic, and on a nice day in the morning, it is really nice because I come on the 3A and you go round the Rabbit Warren and West Cross and then through the university and the hospital. It's quite nice. I quite like that route. It's not my favourite route. My favourite route is the 2. Which you get.
That's something, yeah.
Yeah, you have, yeah. In Mumbles.
I think we find out who's really got the bus fetish.
No. There's, I think it's the 2A and the 2B go up to Castlemare and they turn round in Bracelet Bay. And that on the way up is beautiful, and that on the way down is absolutely beautiful. You get this wonderful view of the bay. It's really nice.
Well, in fairness, we are blessed in Swansea, aren't we? If you're going to get on any bus, on any public transport, you may as well do it on Swansea Bay.
And you get a car, you can do that whenever you want.
Yeah, that's true as well. I hadn't thought of that.
In a bus, you get to see above the hedgerows as well, so you actually get all these
driving. Sometimes you can see it above the hedgerows if you're in a car.
But no. The bus service is good, so it could be a little bit better. I'd like some more around my neck of the woods, because after about 6 o'clock they just pretty much stop. It's 1 hour, but yeah, there you are. Let's go down to Mumbles instead. So apart from buses, which is an interesting tangent.
That's a classic podcast tangent. That one. I think.
The buses?
Just a bus.
That's the best one so far.
That probably.
How
is.
did that even come up? Was it you?
There was a man opposite me that just went, apart from my fetish for buses. What?
I haven't told anybody. I was waiting for a big enough audience to kind of.
Oh, well,
I'm
honoured, man.
I think you're probably still waiting.
Have you ever written it? So are there any poems about buses in your repertoire?
Yeah, I got one called "I Love Buses." Yeah,
Right now we've got
Do you
to
want to do
get
that?
it's got to be done now, isn't it?
Let's do it then. Let's do it.
Right.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen,
I'll give you a
the
second.
second poem of the evening by Richie, entitled "I Love Buses." No, I can't believe that.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
Yeah.
Right, 2 minutes now. Hang on, let me find
So,
it. Right, got it.
ready?
Right. I loved them when I was young. I had one in my hand. I took it with me everywhere. I had it from my mum. Every conversation that I was discussing featured the fact that I love buses. I thought I was on shaky ground between me and my girl. I had something to confess with my head in a whirl. I plucked up the courage and said to my missus, "Do you know that I like buses? Sometimes they are early, sometimes they are late. I like double-deckers. I don't care where they're made. I hear people complaining. I don't know what the fuss is. I just know that I like buses. Some drivers are grumpy, some drivers are fine, some drivers are chatty, better by design. There's room for disabled, they're family-friendly things, and when it's time to get off, there's a bell for you to ring. Sometimes you wait for ages and they all come at once. People get agitated, but I'm not one to pounce. Sometimes I can't get a seat, I have to stand a while. I'll get to my destination, so I'll wait there in the aisle. They can get you to work, they can start your holiday, they can take you on an adventure to a lovely place to stay. Is a mode of transportation available to all of us. I'm not surprised that I enjoy being on a bus.
Oh,
Yeah, there we
wonderful.
go.
Thank you, Richie.
Thank you, Richie.
Feels better. Doesn't it?
Yeah, get it out.
Get it off your chest, mate. Get it out there.
Other question: do you ever combine going to these other places and trying out the bus? I mean, what do you ever get sort of?
Yeah, it's all part of the act. You know?
I'm gonna go and see what the bus service is like. Yeah. So where else?
Part of the art.
Where have you tried in the country that had some of the best buses? Because I used to use the bus all the time in Bristol, and I thought they were good. In Bristol.
Yeah. No, I'll be honest with you, because I can't drive. You know, everywhere I go is by bus.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. You know, so yeah, it's just National Express to the gig sort of thing. Really,
Yeah.
you know, it's a nice, inexpensive way to
I've
travel.
done a bus day tour, like from Swansea to say Cwmdonkin to somewhere else, or wherever.
Do you think I'm some sort of nut or something? No.
I don't know, man. You know?
Well, I would. I like travelling by train. I think train's my preferred form of transport because I like the fact you can get up and walk about and
they've got a sandwich car there.
They have a
as
sandwich car
so
as
that's
well.
always nice, isn't it?
yeah, travelling by train's one of my favourites. Definitely. Along Cwmdonkin, actually up to Cwmdonkin, believe it or not. That's a beautiful stretch of railway between.
I don't think I've done
it
that
is.
trip, actually.
Oh, it's very impressive. I used to live in Carmarthen in the 80s, and it was like, you know, going back to work from Swansea into Carmarthen, as I say, going on Carmarthen Bay, past Buryport and all that is just
Well,
very
it's-
special.
yeah,
very
it's-
special.
it's really
On the
pretty
train the
over
other
there.
day, and we're talking about Llanstefan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was up there, like I say, for my birthday last March, and we, me and a few friends went to Tenby in July, and we had the other side. It is, man. You know, you're joking about being on a train or a bus, and you're having a laugh here with some of them. I mean, we've had this conversation with friends before, like when we go away out to Swansea, wherever it is, to see a gig. You kind of like look forward to the train journey as much as the gig. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The next stop will be Ferry Side, which is literally got nothing there, but it's no. The other route that I used to really like, getting very Anaraki about it, is when you go to North Wales, because when you come back in through Chester or Shrewsbury, and because you got to go out and then back in because there's no direct line up. that North Wales coastline is absolutely breathtaking when you get just past Rhyl. It just opens up and you have the Great Orme and you can see Beaumaris and you can see you're on the way to Bangor. It's absolutely stunning. It really is. It's breathtaking how much is there to see, because you have the mountain range on one side of you, and then the other side you just have literally the sea, and it's fantastic. So yeah,
if you're into all that, I recommend a series that I think the BBC did it with Paul Merton, and he uses the train and he only stops. He goes right around the UK, and he only stops at request stops. And Ferryside is one of them.
really.
Yeah, check it out. I'm sure it was BBC. Paul Merton. I can't remember the name of it, but he only uses request stops. So like I say, Ferryside's one of them, and some like, especially up the Highlands of Scotland. It's like
It's a magical up there.
yeah. There's been conversations about some of us should try it. Like, well, we've never got around to it, but
But there's something about the whole thing with trains and train stations, because there's so much going on. I mean, if you just were to sit there and just observe it, there's people coming and going, people saying goodbye to each other, people saying hello to each other, this, that, and the other. It's like this real nest and hive of activity. It's fascinating.
Well, there's a lot of food for thought, a lot of material for stuff to write. Least favourite train journey has got to be coming into Swansea about 10 o'clock in the evening, 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Where from, though?
Well, you know, I've done that trip back from London a few times. But literally from anywhere, and you've got people out on a night out or whatever. It's just horrific.
Rugby International Day is the worst I've ever been in.
Yeah.
When you're coming from Bristol and everything's fine and everything's quiet, and it's almost too quiet, and then it literally just becomes hell on earth in the carriages. It's move on, sorry boy, we put 3 on the seat there.
one of my close friends works for, I don't know the name of the company now, Transport for Wales. Used to be a Reaver or something. He is a timetable curator for that. So we can get him on if you want to do a train special.
Absolutely.
The train special.
You're welcome back, Rich, if you want to do that.
Buses, trains.
I'm joking. I see him once a week at least. Like.
Yes, please get him on.
Is he on time?
I think we discussed lighthouses last time, and now we're.
I wasn't here last time.
Yes, you were.
Yes, you
that was
were.
for Nia's.
Yeah.
We talked about lighthouses.
We did,
She
yeah.
read a book on the best lighthouses. What was it the best lighthouses in the UK?
Yeah.
That's the
I
one.
remember that now. Yeah.
But just slightly off the point about.
I think you need to get off the point. When you
No. I don't want to go. Sorry, let me rephrase that.
The next stop will be something relevant. Yeah.
No, but it's still on the
This
subject
is the end
of trains.
of the line.
Yeah, well, it has been for me. For a
No,
while.
joking aside, but you've been on a bus and inspirations hit? Obviously, apart from the bus poem. But,
to be honest with you, buses are the best way to kind of go through your poems, because you got you got no interference at all.
Right.
You know, you kind of just sit in your seat sort of thing, and then mentally through your head, you're just going through, you know,
There's been that
8 to
light
10.
bulb moment you've had, like we were talking earlier about. You've written a poem and you're just stuck at the end, and you're on a bus and it clicks.
I don't know. I just don't kind of use it for that sort of thing. You know, I kind of try to kind of, as I say, just switch off and just do other things. So I use kind of the bus to kind of practice my stuff, really.
A meditative kind of thing, is it?
Yeah, pretty much. And then, you know, by the time I get to the gig, I've gone through my set 2 or 3 times, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'm ready now. You know.
Cool, man.
So, you know. So how's this plus points?
You were gonna say something.
I was going to go off on a minor tangent.
Go for it.
But it was train related. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere about the train line that never was built in Swansea. It was supposed to go along Swansea Bay out to Rossilly. And they were going to do some health resort there. We're talking about early 1900s.
No, this is true. Yeah.
This is true. Yeah.
But
And it was, I think it was looking to get some sort of funding at some point, but there was probably some industrialists or something at work at that point that were trying to raise money for it, wasn't it? But it's a travesty actually that wasn't built, because can you imagine like a train line out through Gower?
I don't think that's a travesty at all.
Well, I think it is.
Another big industrial vehicle ruining that landscape. No.
Well, I don't know about that.
The travesty is removal of the slight tangent is the removal of the tram system.
Well, yeah,
that is the most ridiculous thing Swansea Council ever did.
Yeah,
because in hindsight,
again, this is something he's not going to agree with. Yeah,
no, I mean, ruining the tram, yeah, but I don't think it could be classed as the ridiculous thing they've ever done.
It's one of them.
There's a long list.
Long list.
You're quite right.
Did you hear what people
when Chris's pedantry is really important? But yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, but did you hear what people used to do when they used to get married? And there's like 1940s, 1950s in Swansea. There used to be a platform in Lando.
Yeah.
And people used to get married. Used to go to Swansea railway station, jump on the train, get all their mates to kind of, weigh them off, and then the bride and groom would get off at Lando and get home because they couldn't afford a
wedding car.
Yeah,
That's quite nice, though.
isn't it?
Well, Anthony Jones, lead singer of the Rusty Nuts, avid listener to the podcast. And
He gets a lot of mentions.
He does get a lot of mentions.
We've got to get him on.
His house is actually next door to the old Train Masters. I think that's the wrong turn of phrase for it, but the old... it's where CK's built the new supermarket in Cocket.
Right, yeah.
So his house was next door to where I can't remember the name, but it was the man who had the signals and used to live there.
Right,
and it was
The signal one.
Thank you. The signal man. What was his name? And that bit of track is now redundant. So it's that's. I'm fascinated by all these like little tributaries that were sort of cut off under Dr. Beecham.
Centre of Gowton is because of the train line.
Yeah.
The big dip, called the dip to all the G-Town Massive. But now they fill that in, and that used to be the train. I used to go down to the Elba Steelworks, and obviously the train station now in Gowton is off Station Road, but like all of like the centre downtown G-Town is all formed because of the railway line. The way it's laid out is because of the railway line, which isn't there anymore.
Why do they? I don't know. I mean, was it a good idea getting rid of all those small little? I mean, those small pockets would have been quite nice to sort of visit now. I mean, I just want to go and see Chris, or I want to go over.
They can still do it.
Yeah.
Gowton still has a train station.
No, I know. Isn't that a request stop though as well?
How dare you? Not anymore. it's
G-Town. I'm sorry.
It's a big hub. No, but all those it was a request stop, and all these request stop now have all been done.
That's good. Yeah.
And it's not a request stop now. I mean, it's one of the main stops.
Well, that's Arriva Trains Wales. That is, if you're going
Transport for Wales now.
Transport for Wales. If you're going out of Wales, it's Great Western, if I remember rightly, which is the line that runs between Swansea to Bristol, Reading,
London.
London, Paddington.
Bristol Parkway.
You're calling it Bristol Parkway.
For a podcast, his tangent is spectacular. In fairness,
Well, why
I
not?
blame Richie.
We haven't done one, and I talk about buses and trains and the beauty of the art, as Richard, the art of travel
Yes.
is.
Well, there is something in that.
Good.
There is something in that
In what?
because Chris said on a few podcasts ago about how when he sometimes feels like not getting a cab back, walking back to Gowton, then he will write riffs in his head and he'll walk on
Psychogeography.
Right, okay, so
That's
it's that.
Steve Bartholomew.
There is something in... There's a dislocation if you're travelling between, say, point A and point B. You're not... If you're on the train or on the bus, you're smiling at me. But
No, I'm smiling because we can't get off the topic of trains.
No,
It's really
but it
funny.
ties...
You can't get off till the train stops.
So
Sorry.
you are travelling through these different places, okay? So the one that always sticks in my mind travelling by train is going up from Swansea to Leeds and going through Sheffield and Wakefield and seeing all these changes. And you feel like you feel like you've grown along the journey, but you've experienced the change. You've seen things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with the impetus on faster and faster and faster transport, okay, so like if I was to fly to Edinburgh from Cardiff, you miss out on so much. I mean, you get a panoramic view over the top being in a plane and you're up for 20 minutes and then you're down. But if you were to take a train or take a car journey up there, you've got everything in between. Everything.
Funny you say that, man. My cousin lives in Japan, and he's back at Christmas. And he was talking about the bullet train. And I was bang, like, even like a second before it's meant to leave, it's leaving. They're that. And it travels 200 miles an hour or whatever it does. And he said, it's great. It gets you from A to B in a matter of minutes. The downside is, it's going so fast, you don't get to see Japan. It's all going well going from A to B in a split second. A country like Japan.
That's a good point.
Can you imagine? We're talking about like Wales and stuff, how beautiful it is. Japan's probably the same, no doubt. And he said, but you don't get to see it because it's just going back. It's just a blur. So It's not always good.
Quite right. Let's try to steer this off train slightly. In all fairness, I have to say, Richie, that one of the things I do like about your poetry is that you do talk about everyday stuff. It's not, it's stuff that people can actually. It's
no clever words, nothing like that. It's what everybody can relate to.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's not clever words, because I've listened to quite a lot of your poetry, and I think a lot of your stuff is quite clever, actually, particularly with the humour as well. But what other sort of subject matters do you kind of dip into there? I
think I've covered everything at the moment. Really, is only kind of 3 subjects. As I say, I kind of looking for more of a humorous angle. But music and politics are the main ones, really. Say when I first started off, I think probably the first 10 I wrote were about music and politics, and I thought, it was people could relate to it, but sometimes you think, it's coming across a bit heavy. You just need to break it up a bit, sort of thing. Well,
I think
that's really mature.
Yeah,
that's a really mature. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say that's a really mature response, because you're obviously. You're not pandering to the audience, but at the same time, you're aware of what the material is. You're self-aware of what you're projecting. Yeah,
and we've all, as you found out tonight, I got my quirks. We've all got our quirks. So let's write about it. And I think it's like, if you can kind of take fun out of yourself, I think people quite like that sort of thing. You always like,
you're normal.
It's just like, people can relate to you better. So I think, he's not just an angry old man. He's somebody who's kind of, he's got a sense of humour as well.
So when you mention
he cares.
Sorry, when you say you write about politics, you have an interest in politics.
Yeah, I do.
Does that come from listening to punk? Do you think that was the stem of your interest? Or were you interested in politics before punk? Or?
Well, I suppose when punk came before, I was kind of old enough to be aware of politics, really. Yeah. But then, obviously the messages in punk make you think, there is this happening and that's happening. And I'm thinking, I got a good point there, that sort of thing, And then that kind of awakens you then, really, So
have you written political-based poems, say, X amount of years ago, which are still relevant now?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Reflecting back,
unfortunately, they are relevant now. I was hoping at the last election all my stuff would be deleted and I just wouldn't be able to, kind of, be able to read it, because it'd all be kind of, it wouldn't be relevant. That's the point.
If you're listening to like mid-70s punk, US or UK punk, and you can still relate to it today, you're going to be relating to it in 15, 20 years.
I think that's the secret of good informed political writing, whether it be poetry or music, is that you have to be aware, and we said it before in the podcast, if you're too on the nose with it, it has a shelf life. But if you can tackle the theme in a way that it's still relevant, then it still sort of lasts. I think that's what I would seek from a good political song or a punk song.
Yeah. I think you've got to have a certain generic.
Well, no. I wouldn't say generic. I wouldn't say no. Yeah. Generic's really dismissive. It's kind of like, I'm not trying to have a go, but like the one that springs to my mind, and it would be classified as a protest song, is Pete Seeger, "This Land Is Your Land." Well, Woody Guthrie, "This Land Is Your Land, This Land Is My Land." I mean, which is in context to America, but it's a universal theme, which is still relevant. It's sort of like trying to reiterate.
So universal is a word you're more comfortable with then?
Well, no, it's not. No. It's just I think that generic has this sort of Guardian sort of column on a Friday, sort of saying, "Yeah, I went to see the most recent Star Wars." It was quite generic. You know what I mean? It's kind of that word is in the nomenclature of like I feel. Yeah. It's almost got a dismissive quality about it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think what I was trying to say there is that I think, like, for example, Howl by Ginsberg, or like I mentioned earlier, An American Prayer by Jim Morrison. That sort of stuff has a wider kind of sort of theme. I mean, it's talking about an experience of a country or a social system, but it's not honing down to individuals, or it's not honing down to that level of specifics. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're not getting up and going, this one's called Boris Johnson. Yeah,
although I've done a poem called Bojo's Not Cool. But yeah, so
that's got a shelf life, as you.
Yeah. So that's what I meant when I said generic. I think I meant not so specific that whatever. With stuff like if you're going to criticize a particular politician, then it has got a shelf life. But
I tend to not kind of go for the obvious.
Right. Okay.
See, I think it's something.
We've had this conversation before. Yeah. So
it's kind of just do something which I feel, which is relates to me, which I feel is going to relate to others, but that the same respect hasn't been done, sort of thing. So that's why I don't write very, very quickly. So say in 2 years I've got 23, 24 sort of thing. So one a month. But very particular.
Yeah, but there's a respect. There's a respect for the craft almost in that you're crafting it, refining it, filtering it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't rush my work at all. Like say sometimes, as I said before, things come within a couple of weeks or a couple of days or something. But in the same respect, I still won't be happy with it until a couple of months down the line, and then I'm thinking, yes, there we are. That's right now, So
yeah, I mean, I think that's a theme with poets that there's a tendency to kind of reflect for a period of time on life or situations, whatever. Kind of live in their head a little bit, isn't it? And I know musicians will do that as well, but poets have got almost it as a slight burden, isn't it? You sort of kind of walk around sort of thinking things through.
Well, funny you should say that, because I was listening back to the DFP thing that we did in.
So for listeners who don't know what DFP is.
Distress Frequency Project that we did. We just to fill Richie in as well with it. We did a impromptu sort of, was it 20-minute, half an hour set, and we filmed it in Cranes before it shut down.
Right.
After hours, we shouldn't have been there, but it's great. It's great because it's like this little time capsule when you go and watch it, like how the shop was good before it just descended into chaos. And 25% off. No, I tell you what, 50% off. I tell you what, just take the wall hangers. Yeah. Where it looks pretty good. And I went back to, obviously there's like bits of it which need to be edited out, but there's a core part of it, of that thing where it's yourself, Chris, who was there? Ryan, sorry, yeah, I forgot Ryan's name, slipped my mind for it. Yeah, so we're all there together and we're jamming. About 6 minutes in, it really clicks together and it just comes together. It's this really interesting sort of piece. But I've forgotten where I was really going with that, but
I'm not sure either.
No, I've gone tangential again. Apologies.
No. Chris was a very good sort of lead that evening. I thought, just to throw that in there as well. But
he was
sort of like the conductor, isn't it? Sort of bringing things together.
Well, if you watch the video, I'm looking over at him every 5 minutes, and he's looking over at me. Because like the two guitars are like sort of interplaying, and then you've got Ryan doing his thing, and then you sort of in the corner with your
couple
haircuts. Yeah. You had a very distinct haircut back then. Yeah. Sort of surprised with it. But
almost white supremacist, wasn't it?
It was almost.
Oh, was it? Is that what I went for? That's what I went for.
Combat 18.
Oh, right. Okay. Dark time.
But Rich, we're talking about punk and your love for punk. Roughly give or take, what's your top 5 punk albums? You don't have to give the 5, but the top punk albums.
Well, Pistols straight up. And I think the first Damned one as well.
Yeah.
It's just to be honest with you, a lot of bands, it is pretty much the first albums I kind of take to. It's kind of it's just got that really hard edge to it.
Okay.
And also you've got to throw in the ska element as well in there as well, like the first Specials album and things like that, and the second Selector album.
Okay.
They they released that. I think it was Ronald Reagan was shot.
Yeah.
And they released a single called Celebrate the Bullet. It just happened to fall at the wrong time for them, Yeah. But it's that right then sort of thing,
But I mean, that's quite a thing with punk. I mean, it's do it yourself. It's that build up and then bang, then it's out. And I mean, I'd throw in there that after, well, there's that Adage. I think it's the band The Vibrators. They started off as a punk band, but 3 Chords and The Truth, and then all of a sudden they were starting to throw other things in there, and then it wasn't really punk anymore because it had evolved.
Yeah,
and it's the same with the Clash. It's one of the reasons why the Clash was sort of they're not really punk. I mean, they started off as a punk band, but then it sort of dub reggae, and they were sort of experimenting with like early hip hop because they just grew. So punk is like, I don't want to say
look at Neurosis. They started off as a hardcore punk band.
There you go.
And look where they are. Look what they've become.
Things sort of
influential bands ever.
Going back to what you said, things sort of evolve. I mean, you started with this sort of way through, and then you mature. You mature with your sound. You self-efface, and things sort of move outwards and sidewards. But yeah, I mean,
I think with music as well, it kind of evolves with the time, sort of thing. It's like punk started.
Was it specifically British punk though? You never got into like the US punk, Black Flag and all that.
No, not so much into the American stuff at all. Really, never really took to it. It's like it just hasn't got the same edge to me as the British stuff has. Really.
Well, Minor Threat did like literally. Their discography fits on one CD. I think it's like two albums and 2 EPs. Yeah. It's like 30 tracks, and that was it. That's it. They're done. They're spent. Then Mackay goes off and does Embrace, Egg Hunt, Embrace, and Fugazi, which is like this post sort of weird, the early interpretation of emo, which is not My Chemical Romance and all that bollocks. It's actually proper emotional hardcore. And even Black Flag, when they started off, after Greg Ginn. Is it not Greg Ginn? Who's the lead singer before Rollins? Jack Norris, yeah. Keith Morris, not Keith Morris. Right, Keith Morris, right? Jack Norris, not Jack Norris. Keith Morris, wow. Keith Morris, hand your Black Flag CDs back in at the door, thank you. Even when they sort of came to the end of their career, they did an instrumental album called The Process of Weeding Out, which is like this weird time signature sort of stuff. And the Misfits are another example of that. They started off as like a 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 Ramones sort of thing, and then by the time you get to them all leaving and just Danzig on his own, it's kind of like this gothic sort of rock ode to Roy Orbison. But I'm surprised, as Chris has pointed out, that you never sort of jumped, but took to any of the American, the second wave of the punk hardcore scene.
It's like the second wave of ska as well. So I think from America, or anything, I don't know. It's like I don't know. I'm just a traditional sort of a guy, really. I kind of like that raw energy when it came out initially, and the Americans will probably say they captured it as well. But for me, no.
Do you find with some of that there's a close parallel between folk and punk? At all?
But I like blues, early blues, the country blues sort of stuff, Delta stuff.
Same here, man.
Bucko White, Sun House, early punks.
Sun House, brilliant, man. Yeah.
Simple as And
I often said, and I've said on the podcast before, like the early outlaw country stuff, like Hank Williams and all that was punk before punk was about.
Totally.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like the hell raising that people go on about punk, and they betrayed us. Those guys were doing it. Before they just didn't have distortion.
Like the Kinks were punk to me. Early Kinks was punk. So.
But I mean, it's interesting as a tradition to see how things get labelled, and then punks. How do I phrase this? Punk sort of became like a cash-in, though, didn't it? Towards like the 90s. I mean, because like when we say punk, we need to clarify it's not Green Day, it's not it's not NoFX or Blink 182. This is stuff that's this is Holidays in the Sun, which is like it's or Bodies, which is like you listen to Bodies. I mean, I would advise everybody go listen to Bodies by the Pistols, but it deals with quite heavy subject matter, even by today's standards. And Holidays in the Sun, which is one of my probably my favourite Pistol song of all time. But it's interesting, as I was saying, about the parallels with folk, because there is that folk tradition, as we touched on Woody Guthrie, where there is this notion of protest and standing up and sort of it being really stripped back. I mean, Guthrie's book, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it details him travelling around the country, literally guitar in hand, and it pretty much just doing punk is just turning up and just doing a gig. That's it, just as DIY as it gets. No label involved. Maybe along the way someone's got a mic somewhere and I'll record it down and that's it. But that's where my fascination was. It like that real roots of that is. I think that's really the roots of punk.
I had one reading a book by what's his name now? Billy Bragg on the birth of skiffle.
What's that book called?
Oh God!
Is it called the birth of
Roots Radicals and something else? But it's basically skiffle came out when rock and roll came across to the UK, and films like Blackbird Jungle came out, and all of a sudden it's like all these teenagers had something to really fight for, sort of thing, and that, to me, that's early punk as well, sort of thing, it's that ethos of DIY, and skiffle, really, if anything, really captures that. But it's just like you're making your own instruments, sort of thing.
Well, here's a beautiful tying of the knot. Billy Bragg, about 3 years ago, recorded a number of songs, I think it's about 13 or 14, in different acoustic spaces in train stations in America. And
I can't remember who the guy was with. It was somebody else with
it. Honestly, it is absolutely amazing because you've got them singing the songs and they're set up in the background doing everything, and then you've got the sound of the platforms and everybody coming and going, and it's bloody brilliant because they're using the room like we're using the room here as an amplifier, because these are huge high ceilings. They're almost like that's why a church is essentially built like a big reverb tank, you know what I mean? It's designed so when there's lots of people singing, the reverberance around the room, and then they're going to these massive American train stations, which, I mean, you've seen in probably countless films and just forgotten, where is it Grand Central Station?
Grand Central,
which so many films are like set into there. I mean, acoustically, that just must be fantastic, and it is. The record is fantastic. I take my hat off to you because I love Billy Bragg myself. Not everything, but there's a lot of it I really sink my teeth into with Billy Bragg. I think he's an absolute genius.
No, it's the skiffle angle for me. I like Billy Bragg, don't get me wrong, but it's the skiffle thing as well. I kind of like that kind of, as I say, the DIY ethic of it all, sort of thing. Yeah.
Lonnie Donegan. Well, just to touch on one.
Well, yeah, but I don't think he did, tremendous amount, really. It's like, you got the Vipers and things like that, sort of thing. So it was like, it was just the way that whole scene evolved, really. Well, how it kicked off.
Well, John Lennon started off pretty much, it was a skiffle band before he sort of was absconded to the Beatles, and even the one Elgin was it the 101ers, which is Joe Strummer's band. Was it kind of tail end as skiffle in a way, Bob Dylan-esque sort of thing. But yeah, they're fantastic as well.
Yeah.
I think it's on you. I think you should ask the question. You're just taking a sip of your beer.
I was something was triggering off there about Billy Bragg. I got this vague recollection that he was on Top of the Pops and he wanted to sing live. Have I just made this up?
Well, it's not just him, but
no. But wasn't it at a time when
lip syncing?
There was a lot of lip syncing and other bands weren't doing it live. Yeah. But he did his that night live, didn't he?
I think he did the Milkman of Human. Oh God, I can't remember the title. I know the song.
No, I can't remember it either.
No, I know the track. I would know it. I think it's off the second album. And he's there, and it's all got that dun 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 oh Billy.
But I mean, for someone like him, you can't really not do that sort of music, kind of pre-recorded, can you? You want that live, you want that energy, the interaction with the audience, isn't it? And I think that's what you get with your poetry, your performances. You like that interaction. That's why I think you sort of trigger certain things with people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is great. Yeah. It's just nice to see people's reaction, So it's just a cool thing to do, really.
Do you always go down well then? I mean, or is it, have you ever had any adverse stuff?
Pretty much get invited back most gigs, which is good. So I got some follow-ups from last year, this year again, back in Sheffield, back in Nottingham. So places like that.
So are you? How much performing are you going to be doing in Swansea then? So for people who might want to catch up with you locally.
Well, I did 10 Swansea gigs last year.
Right. Okay.
So this year I think I'm gonna. Well, I got 2 booked in so far. I got a Zine Fest in May.
Yeah.
Where's that?
What's the place opposite? Cinema and Co. Across the road from Cinema and Co. Volcano.
Oh, up the road.
Yeah, Volcano.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And I'm doing one in Elysium. So that's my release.
So
Elysium.
I was just going to say, so Zinefest and all that sort of stuff, that's going to coincide with the release of your stuff then, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's all Zinefest, all about self-publication. So that kind of fits in nicely with what I do as well. And so for the time.
So I agree that Saturday the 9th of May is Zine Festival at Volcano.
Yeah.
And what was the other one you said?
Well, I got Chef. No, I just been
Elysium Bar. Sorry, the release
Elysium
gig
Bar on the 18th.
Saturday, the 18th of April.
That's right. 17th we're in Cardigan.
Yeah.
So we got.
So there's 2 poets who are doing both those.
Yeah, they
shows.
they're both coming down. I think to be honest with you, the best way poets, musicians can work together these days is doing gig swaps. And they're coming down here. And then, I'll be going up to hopefully Derby and Manchester. Celebar Cardigan.
Best the night before, yeah.
Richie, do you have a 9 to 5 at all? Do you do anything part-time? Do you work at all? Or are you just solely focused on the poetry?
No, I'm landscape gardener.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that's really good, man.
I've been self-employed for 20 years now, so it's quite nice because I can take the weekend off and shoot up to wherever sort of thing, or and do a gig.
Bit of a dry.
I know that. I'm gonna have some work for you. So I'll take your number at the end of it.
Yeah. So to everybody else, Richie's not
That's
only a
legitimate.
poet,
I might
but
have
he's
to
also a
work for him.
landscape gardener. If you are interested, please get in contact with Frequency House, and we'll pass on Richie's details for you. So you're doing. 20 years you've been doing that, self-employed, self-made man. So where's your patch? Is it all over Swansea, or do you go further afield? Or
it's kind of Llansamlet, Morriston, Birch Grove area, and I got a couple of jobs in Sketty as well. So
have you got sort of website for that then or not?
No, to be honest with you, I kind of advertised when I first started. I spent £6 on cards.
Right.
And it's all going word of mouth.
Yeah.
So I got about 30 or 40 regulars, and that's it really. It takes up my time, that does, as much as I want to take on.
That's what going on, though. So,
well, no, it's a.
I'm not joking.
I know it's a hard job because friend of the podcast, Mart, who's in State of Decay, he's also.
Oh, Mart, yeah.
Oh, you know Mart?
I know Mart.
Mart Court, yes.
Goodbye.
He's a good one. We asked, this is an interesting tangent because we had him in the shop because Mart's doing a bit of amber repair work because he's branching out. And we asked him and he went, no, I'm not doing it. He flatly refused. Not because it's us, because I've got nothing to say. I'll put AJ on there and I'll laugh at him. But no, Mart would be very interesting. So did you know Mart from the punk scene or both?
Yeah, because what was his band?
The garden scene.
Yeah, we're big Moa fans.
we predominantly use petrol as opposed to electric because he always goes on about that with me. Like if we'd had a couple, he'd sort of say, see, the thing is, Simon, you can tell a good gardener because a good gardener will turn up with petrol engine as opposed to electric.
I'm electric man.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Sorry, Mark.
Take that back. Sorry, but I didn't mean it like that. But so did you know him from the punk first, or did you know
punk,
him
from through punk? Yeah, because I know he's been in a couple of bands. Yeah. Before the one he's in now.
Yeah.
And it's just by going to gigs, really. And you just get chatting to people.
Because he's punk as.
He
is. No, Mark is.
Well, I've spoken to him in the shop.
Oh, right. It says hello.
Yeah, but he's kind of very much old school punky, isn't he?
He's frightening old school.
Punky.
Yeah. Crass tattoo, and that's it. As far as he's concerned, there was only ever one British punk band, and it's Crass, and that's it. You don't
Discharge.
And Discharge. Yeah, it doesn't discuss anything else. The Clash are off the table completely.
So do you want to do one more poem for us?
I was just going to say,
you go, man. Have you got something in mind, or?
Yeah. Right. I'll do a musical one.
Do it, man.
This time round. This one. Where are we?
What's it called, Richie?
This one's going to be called. If I can find him. Sticky Floor Future. It's all about music venues.
Sticky Floor Future.
I like Sticky Floor Future. It's a good one. Right, here we go.
Sticky Floor Future.
We're living in a sanitised society. It's not for the likes of me. They try to take our fun away. Sticky floors have no future, they say. They try to close down all the pubs and the places that we love. They want no place for bands to play, to express themselves in every way. No more DIY promoters, no place for bands to cut their teeth. Music venues are the heartbeat of a city and of its streets, but they're being turned into apartments for extreme financial gain. Bad decisions by councillors without a hint of shame. A home for grassroots music, a home for bands to play, place to hone their craft, place to have their say. 400% rate increase is putting it all at risk, and lack of arts council funding, a government policy that stinks. They're a place where new friendships are met, where like minds can connect. That interaction with a band you do not get in TV land. To buy an album or a tee, a pin badge and get a sticker free. It's the heart and soul of what we believe. So support the music venue. It's the least that it deserves. Its back's against the wall, something we must preserve. Support its music gig guide and other events within. They want to shut down what we love. We must not let them win.
Yes.
Thank you, Richie. Good again.
Just to say that one, there's a line saying about 400% rate increase, and I think it was the Fleece in Bristol. About 2 years ago was hit with a 400% rate increase by Bristol City Council. They could turn it into apartments.
And I love that venue, man. I've seen some great gigs.
It's a great. There's some cracking venues in Bristol. You know, it's a really, really good town to be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, unfortunately, we're sort of winding it up for the evening. I must apologise to you for that comment about electric versus petrol.
That's all right, I don't take it to heart.
No.
But Richie, if anyone wants to follow you, we've got social media and all that kind of spiel. How do they follow in your poems? Man?
Yeah, I got a Facebook site, Uptown Portrayer, Punk Poet. All the gig dates are on there. You know, if you just get a like or a follow, and you can find out about the release and everything. Then, like, you know, it's all from that.
And the next gig coming up is
Cardigan, Celabar Cardigan, 17th of April.
So therefore, your next Swansea gig is the 18th.
18th in Elysium Bar. That's the release date.
It's been great, Richie. Thank you, man.
Cheers, guys. Enjoyed.
Thank you, everyone.
Thoroughly enjoyed.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks.
So, in the time-honored tradition, it's good night from me.
It's good night from me.
Au revoir.
Bye.